Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. And today we're going to be playing another quick draft of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, adding some variety to the channel while we still can, because these quick draft queues are gone in 24 hours. They're swapping back to Aether Drift quick drafts, and then Aether Drift will be the only format on Arena for like a couple weeks. So we're going to do the variety while we still can these next couple days, and play some of the Cowboy format, some old Outlaws of Thunder Junction here. Without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one. We'll start off with a pretty sweet rare. The Aven Interrupter is going to slow our opponent down, exiling a spell, which is basically going to counter it for a turn, and they can cast it for 2 from exile. The turn after you cast this thing. Just a really nice way to slow your opponent down. I don't think it's incredible or anything. It's not super balmy. There are some uncommons I would take over it, but the uncommons in this pack aren't super great, nor are the other rares. Pariah is pretty fun. You like use this on an opponent's creature, and then the next time they deal damage to you, instead they kill their own creature. That's pretty cute, but kind of finicky removal, not great. And then Satoru as well, pretty finicky. Have not been super impressed by him, especially being a multicolored card over just the monocolored, really solid card of Aven Interrupter. So start with the Interrupter and see what we get in pick number 2. Not a huge fan of this pack. Hypothesis is solid in like the Grixis Crimes decks. Where you are very controlling and you like to run a lot of removal and card draw and stuff. This being both of those on one card is pretty nice. Does not go well with our Aven Interrupter. I'm not a huge fan of trying to do white, blue, and red in this format. Although there is some good fixing. You have treasure tokens off cards like Gold Pan. You have all the deserts at common you can get that are all dual lands. But really, I think the best stuff for fixing is that green is super good at fixing these formats. I think I'd rather just take up the shield here, take a nice aggressive white spell to go with the Aven Interrupter. That's the strongest white card in the pack. Probably the second strongest in the pack behind only really Hypothesizal. And Hypothesizal is for a pretty specific, pretty narrow kind of deck, so I think take up the shield is just more flexible. Moving into pick 3. Pick 3 now. I suppose I didn't mention it last pack, but Holy Cow is pretty fine. It's probably the second best pick for us out of this pack, behind the Vault Plunderer. Vault Plunderer, of course, an off-color common, but I think it is significantly better than the rest of the pack to make it definitely worth taking. Just a 2-for-1 immediately off of the card draw. The 3-1 body means it can trade up into some higher toughness creatures. It's not very good at attacking because it only has 1 toughness, but it's a really nice defensive card, actually, putting you ahead in cards throughout the game and trading up into a lot of the early attackers in the format. So I do like Vault Plunderer. My pick order here is probably Vault Plunderer, Holy Cow, then like Skewer the Critics and Lush Oasis. Pretty distant third. But let's go for the Vault Plunderer here. Pick number 4, we now have a Desperate Bloodseeker to keep us heading a little deeper into black. Perfectly solid card. Just a 2-mana 2/2 lifelinker is fine in any deck, but it technically commits a crime by targeting your opponent, if you care about that. And it mills if you care about self-mill cards, graveyard synergy cards, so it actually has a lot of good spots in the format. I do like that stat line a lot better than the 2-mana 1/2 flyer, but this is nice for, again, a controlling deck that's committing a lot of crimes over time, but I think Bloodseeker's more generally good and probably better in the black-white deck. We want to be a little more aggressive here if that's where we end up. And it's a little better, even if we don't end up in black-white, just in being good for a multitude of decks here, like Golgari and stuff. Golgari and Dimir, I think Bloodseeker's pretty great. Consuming Ashes now, just really solid removal spell in this format. There's a ridiculous amount of good graveyard recursion. One of the most frustrating play patterns in this format, because it's so bomb heavy, being a format with play boosters and the Outlaws of Thunder Junction big score bonus sheet and the Prosperity Post bonus sheet. Sometimes there's like 4 rare packs, which is pretty insane. So you have to be prepared for really explosive, really scary bomb creatures from your opponent. And there's plenty of cards to play them, and then you kill it, and then they just bring it back from their grave and do it all over again. With Consuming Ashes, you can rest assured they are not going to use that card ever again. So I'm a big fan of this card in the format, and I will take that over mainly another Take Up the Shield. I really don't think we needed to take the first one this highly, considering we ended up seeing 5 million copies opened up throughout pack 1, but you're not always going to see that. But I do think our deck would probably be in a better spot having taken the Holy Cow over the Take Up the Shield at this point, because it's starting to look pretty likely we're going to wheel a Take Up the Shield because, again, there's just a billion copies being opened up right now. For pick 6 now, we have Prosperity Tycoon. This is a pretty solid card for the Orzhov deck. In theory, you're supposed to be kind of a token deck that can sack tokens for good value. So this is really nice for the two colors that we're heading down right now, the potential archetype that we're heading down. That said, I think Dance of the Tumbleweeds is just an excellent card for any green deck, and the green decks tend to get to be really splashy and stuff. So this will go into our deck in a lot of different spots. Like if we don't end up playing white, we can be Golgari, we can be Sultai, we can be Jund, we can be so many different things off of a Dance of the Tumbleweeds, so I love how flexible that card is. It is probably the safer pick here, but the Prosperity Tycoon is potentially more powerful, just being a great card on curve for the Orzhov deck. And with a card like Aven Interrupter costing double white, it'll be hard to be a 3+ color deck and still hit double white in the early game when you want it for the Aven Interrupter. So I don't think this is going to get into the deck if we're playing one of the big splashy green decks off cards like Dance of the Tumbleweeds. So off the power level of Interrupter plus potential to be really strong in the Orzhov deck, I'm going to push to Tycoon, although I do think Dance or even Mourner Surprise could be the safer pick there. Pick 7, I think Cactarantula is miles ahead of Stagecoach Security and Treasure Dredger. These are okay cards for this archetype, pretty mediocre ones anywhere else, whereas Cactarantula is one of the big pulls into green in my opinion. A great top-end card that can block anything thanks to the reach and draws you an extra card when they spend removal on it. I think we gotta go Cactarantula here because it's just raw power level, the strongest card by a lot. But there are some fun combos we can try to get with the Treasure Dredger in Orzhov. There's the Baron Bertram, gives you a 1/1 every time you make any token. That includes treasure tokens. So Baron Bertram plus Treasure Dredger is a pretty nasty combo. And Security is a solid card at the top end of the curve, but again, they are so much more filler to the archetype unless we specifically get the Baron. Then Cactarantula would be for green. It's just such a pull into the color. Pick 8 now. And speculate a little green off Voracious Varmint, which is main deckable artifact and enchantment removal in green. We could also take Lonely Arroyo, just a speculative duel in case we find any blue nonsense to splash around with. That'd be fine too. These green cards are pretty filler as well. Yeah, I'll take the Arroyo. Pick number 9, Drover Grizzly's fine in the green-white mounts deck when you have a lot of cards that care about the mount card type, but otherwise the 2 toughness on the 3-drop means it just trades down to something and doesn't play super well. So I think I'm just going to take Sterling Keykeeper. Although green-white mounts could be one of the backup plans here, right? Like if green ends up being really open and we hop into the color, we go green-white mounts or green-black self-mill. So Grizzly might not be the worst pick ever here, but I'm just so much deeper into white, and I'm not a massive fan of Grizzly, so this feels fine. Again, I'm just going to take the Security for top end here over the Drover Grizzly. Here's Conduit Pylons, random fixing, whatever we end up in. Take up the shield, pick 12. Yeah, I wish this was a holy cow instead of a take up the shield because so many copies were opened that they are just flying around the draft pod. The bots do not want the card. Okay, pack 2, pick 1. This is pretty bad. We got a blue-red rare that's not even that strong, so we're definitely not completely jumping off ship here for that. Honest Rutstein is absolutely absurd. This is an S+ mythic tier uncommon. Could be a reason to splash the color. It's a 3-mana 3/2, which is not a horrible body for the cost, plus picks up a creature from your grave to your hand, plus makes that creature and any other creatures cost 1 less to cast. Honest Rutstein is honestly absurd. And like green, even if I'm just black-white at the pier, just splashing in green for Rutstein seems fine. Yeah, I definitely can see the argument for Consuming Ashes because it's such a good removal spell, but I kind of want to just go for the Rutstein. Yeah, Rutstein's just ridiculous. I'm going to take that here. Oh, this is a really good pack. Pack 2, pick 2, we have Stubborn Burrow Fiend. Really good for Golgari Self-Mill, so it plays really well with Rutstein, but it's also really good in green-white mounts because of the important mount card type, plus attacking so big so early. But we also have Prairie Dog, just a 2-mana 2/2 lifelinker in the early game that can get bigger over time. The Mystical Tether is also exceptional removal. This pack is awesome. Really think you can't go wrong with a bunch of removal in the format, so I don't mind grabbing the removal spell here first over these creatures. I mean, we're not going to wheel any of these 3 cards, which is the sad part. But I do have a couple 2-drops already. They're certainly weaker than the ones here, but just 1 removal spell right now. I'm going to take the Mystical Tether here. Back for More is another pretty absurd piece of green recursion that we can splash in. You pick up the biggest creature in your grave and you have it fight one of the opposing creatures. So you can often 2 for 1 your opponent, bring back something big, eat one of their better creatures, keep your card out. So I like the Back for More here. Cactarantula is not super splashable, so that's probably getting cut unless green becomes the core color. Maybe black becomes the splash here. Because we do see a Beast Bond Outcaster pick 4, which is kind of crazy. 3 mana for a 3/3 plus draw a card. If you have a creature with power 4 or greater, that's a really, really nice deal. Throw from the Saddle is also pretty good removal, particularly in green-white mounts. But while we might be green-white at the core, we don't currently have any mounts. But Throw from the Saddle is really good even without mounts in your deck, so that is definitely an option too. But I did spend another pick earlier on pretty early removal with Mystical Tether. We've got that Consuming Ashes. That's a little hard off the splash, double black, but I think Outcaster is just pretty absurd, so I'm going to take that. Oh, wow, yeah, let's go. Aloe Alchemist, 2 mana, 3/2 trample. You can also plot it, give something else. +3/+2 trample on the turn. I mean, this card's just clearly great. The stat line is just the absurd part on this. It's very obvious why that card is good. Snakeskin Veil now for great protection against removal. I do have double Take of the Shield filling a very similar role, and with the black splash in this deck, we could definitely use more fixing like Mirage Mesa, so I think I'm actually going to go Mesa over Snakeskin Veil. Try to rely on Take Up the Shield to fill up that role. The issue with Take Up the Shield over Snakeskin Veil is that it can't stop exile removal, obviously. But it'll have to work here, because we definitely need to pick up some fixing. Pick 7 is just a really weak pack. I don't think I'm going to end up playing any of these cards. I'm just going to hold down the Alt key. I already own everything. Well, I will rare draft an uncommon for Vault Progress then, because bad pack was bad. Hard Bristle Bandit gives us more fixing towards the black splash. Definitely take that. Trying to get a double black removal spell in this deck. Drover Grizzly's fine in the green-white color pair because it is a mount for anything we pick up that's going to care about that. It's also a cheap 4-power creature to go with our Beast Bond Outcaster. I can plot Outcaster on 2, cast Drover Grizzly on 3. That's a pretty nasty curve out. Pick 10. Tumbleweed Rising's pretty filler, but with 3 mana 4-power creatures it can play fine. Grab another one here over nothing else. Pick 12 is nothing. Pick 13 is nothing, and we'll see what we get in pack number 3. Splash in Abrupt Decay. Honestly, I think Desert Stew just kills more things than Abrupt Decay does. And it's just as castable. It just needs that single black, so we'll splash in the Desert Stew. Oh, we don't have to splash anything in. There's Lassoed by the Law that's on color. Sorry, it's been a while since I drafted the format, so I just completely didn't even recognize the artwork. Yeah, Lassoed by the Law, easy, great exile removal spell. Gives us a creature when we cast it as well, which is absurd. Speaking of absurd, another mythic uncommon in the format is Outcaster Greenblade, because it's going to 2 for 1 by just hitting the board, being a creature and a land. It's going to fix you by grabbing any land you need, including deserts, which are dual lands, and it's going to be a massive threat later because you're playing deserts and making it really big, so Outcaster Greenblade is completely absurd. Really happy to take it here, even over the great black removal spell. Pick 3, Lassoed by the Law, copy number 2, take that over the Erranks. We're not super aggressive here. We can grind it out with the best of them with all this removal. Pick 4, another Mirage Mesa for more fixing over the double black removal spell of Unfortunate Accident. Pick number 5, Hollow Marauder off the splash. This card is completely absurd. It is a massive flyer that makes your opponent discard a card. So it's a 2 for 1 at minimum. But if your opponent doesn't discard a card with mana value 4 or greater, it turns into a 3 for 1. If they discard a land card, they're discarding a card, you're drawing a card, you're getting a 4/2 flyer. And Lord have mercy on your opponent if you Honest Rutstein this card or if you back for Morid or anything like that. So Hollow Marauder looks like a really excellent splash in this deck. Pick 6. Now we can take a Trained Erranks here, just get us started early. Although a Drover Grizzly awkwardly, just in the market of having more 4-power creatures to go with Beast Bond Outcaster could be the pick, but I'm really low on 2-mana creatures. I can't really run 2-mana creatures off the splash, because we're just not going to have black mana on turn 2 to cast these things, or even turn 3 for Plunder, so I think I'm cutting those. Yeah, that leaves us really low on the early 2-mana creatures. I'm going to go Erranks over Grizzly. Sorry, Beast Bond Outcaster. Whoops. There's the Baron Bertram if I took that Treasure Dredger that other time. I guess it technically would have worked out, but Sterling Supplier is perfectly fine. This might not be a horrible Nurturing Pixie deck either, because if we're really lucky and we get to Mystical Tether or Lasso by the law a token, then I can Nurturing Pixie back my Tether or Lasso and kill another card with it as well, which is obviously pretty absurd. Probably not playing these Tumbleweed Risings. I don't know, I think I'm doing pretty good. 4 2-drops, 4 3-drops. Format's not mega fast. I'll just take another Chonker with the Sterling Supplier. Festering Gulch is really helpful mana. Throw that in. Over the filler 2-drop. Conduit Pylons, Snakeskin Veil, or Stagecoach Security again. Got a lot of non-creature spells here. I think I'm just going Pylons. I mean, we have 25 cards. 4 of them are lands. This means we have 21 non-land cards right now. I have to put 2 more of these non-land cards back in at minimum. So I have to play Tumbleweed Risings right now. I feel like those are really inconsistent. I think those are bad enough to just take a Stagecoach Security or Snakeskin Veil just so I don't have to run a Tumbleweed Rising. Run one of these over it. What is the creature count? 14? It's not horrific for like a grindier kind of deck like this. Don't mind the Snakeskin Veil. Yeah, I'm gonna Snakeskin Veil over Security here. Now we can take a Steer Clear for early removal. That's our 23rd non-land card. Oh my god, Dance of the Tumbleweeds, pick 11. That card is awesome in this deck. At 3 mana, it's going to grab one of our black sources out of the deck, specifically probably the green-black desert, and be really helpful fixing. But if we draw it later and we have 6 or more mana, it's a gigantic creature and ramp at the same time. Really awesome card for this kind of deck. So at that point, maybe we're not playing Steer Clear, because I've got Tether, Double Lasso, Consuming Ashes for removal. We're cutting 1 card. I think we can play Consuming Ashes. We have Greenblade, we have Gulch, Pylons, Mesa, Bandit, Dance. Yeah, we can play a double black removal spell in here. 1 cut. I don't really want to cut a creature. 14 creatures is fine, but I guess we're at like 15 with Dance as well, so I could cut a creature. I have Lasso, Tether. Sorry, I have Tether, Double Lasso, Consuming Ashes back for more. Yeah, I'm going to cut a Steer Clear. This deck looks really solid. Lots of card quality in just premium uncommons like Rutstein, Hollow Marauder, Beast Bond Outcaster, Outcaster Greenblade also being incredible. Some great removal with Tether, Double Lasso, Consuming Ashes. It's got a lot of what you want in the format. The only thing it's really missing is actual rare bomb power. But the quality of the uncommons is still really high, and we have great removal and stuff. So this will be a solid look back at the format here as we call it a deck and hop into the gameplay. All right, here we are on the draw for game 1. Our opponent's on a red deck. I've got my white source, my black source, double green. Do I have double white in this deck? I've got 1 Aven thing that costs double white. And I have 1 double black card with Consuming Ashes. think I have more, I mean, I definitely have more white spells in general, so I could find myself in a position where I want to cast 2 white spells a lot more often than a position where I want to cast 2 black spells. So we'll get the white source off Mesa and rely on Bandit and Green Blade to get the second black later. Brimstone Roundup. So if our opponent casts 2 spells in one turn, they start getting some mercenary tokens, which is pretty cute. Shows off the plot mechanic of the format where they are essentially suspending a card for a turn and casting it next turn so that they can double up their spells and trigger all their cards like that. There's a Vial Smasher. Find a Take Up the Shield. Green Blade, drop the tap land, finding the Festering Gulch for the green-black source. I could go Conduit Pylons here for the Surveil, because I have so many lands in my hand that I should be able to filter mana through that when I need it, and the Surveil's pretty valuable, actually. Sterling Supplier, I will keep another 5-drop with the way this hand is shaped. There's Eroded Canyon to commit a crime, but they don't have anything on board that cares about crime. Pass from there. I don't remember the counter spells in this format well enough to know what they could have here. We've got to take up the shield, and Green Blade presents enough damage to kind of need to be at least considered to be dealt with here, so I'm just going to slam that in and see if they do anything to that first. They do not try to do any instant speed removal, so I suppose play Supplier, see what they have. Like, what counters? There's like a counter unless you pay 2 for 2 mana, I think. Maybe we could wait out the counter spell. I don't know, my memory on the blue stuff is pretty foggy, which is definitely coming to bite us a little here. I don't think there's like Disdainful Stroke for like counter something that costs 4 or more or anything like that. I mean, if they had the counter, they'd probably slam it by now. Supplier resolves, and we'll see what they're doing next turn. Alright, our opponent timed out, so I guess we will take the victory there. 1-0 heading into game 2. Alright, here we are for game number 2. Our opponent's on the play, and we don't have a green source here, which is awkward, but we've got a Keykeeper and a Tether for their first important threat, so I'm going to keep this on the draw. Our opponent's on blue, blue-black here. That can be a really good control deck in the format. There's some cards, one in particular that's really scary. That's like a, one a blue and a black, you gain a life, draw a card, and every time you commit a crime, you put it back into your hand. So all your removal spells can become 2-for-1s, where you kill their creature and draw another card later, and grind out a really good long game with something like that. So let's go Grizzly. The Razzle Dazzler's a little strange. That makes me feel they're not super controlly. They're probably really low curve, trying to be a little more aggressive, and that's how things look here with 2 more 2-drop creatures to make the Razzle Dazzler unblockable there. Servant of the Stinger gets to tutor anything out of their deck if it hits me, which is a problem in a format that's pretty bomby. Makes me feel like I should probably just tether the Servant and make sure that does not happen. I don't get to attack into the crab, sadly. So we pass. We're pretty fine with any trades here with Rutstein in hand. Sator is probably bad. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control are entered, if none of them are cast or no mana was spent to cast. Oh, so if they plot cards and then cast them for free, that does stuff. Doesn't do anything right now. Okay. We drew our double black spell, which is pretty awkward. Because now I have a double green and a double black spell here. Without the mana for either. At this point, we're fully playing for blocks right now. We just want to delay this game. If we can turn this into a long game, probably win that. Top deck swamp. Come on, fingers crossed. Top deck swamp. Okay, or the Satoru attack would also be good. Being able to double block and kill that would work. Okay, make the Grizzly a 1-2. Sure, I'll trade a 1-2 into the Splasher. I will trade one of these into the Dazzler. And then top deck a swamp, kill Satoru and win. Come on, top deck. No, okay, well, I mean, it's the removal. So that's actually still pretty good. Just making sure they don't draw any extra cards off Satoru here by casting the Djinn. I'm not that worried about the Djinn. If I hit a black source, I can kill it. If I hit a green source, I can block it forever with a 6/5. Oh, God, dude. Hollow Marauder is such a grown test. Card is so strong, and that's why we're playing it ourselves. Well, I can discard a Cacturantula and pick that up with Rutstein. Okay, if I hit the lasso, I'm going to do that instead. Exiling the Hollow Marauder to shut off any graveyard recursion they might have. We don't have any attacks into the crab. I could like Mercenary up, make the Keykeeper 3 power so it could attack into the Djinn, but it wouldn't attack into the crab. Plot the Djinn? Oh, to trigger the crab, I see. That's still pretty bold. I think just the amount of pressure they would get on me for the for just having this on the board would be worth it. Just take the reach creature and hope here. Yeah, this makes green sources or black sources my out. I could double Mercenary buff the Keykeeper and then attack and really hope they block for a take up the shield, but I think it's just safer to just tap the Djinn and take no damage this turn. Green source or black source? No whammies, no whammies. Make that thing a 2/3? Sure. Okay. Land sees the secrets. It's kind of a whammy. But it does get the green and black source if I can survive. Which is obviously quite a big deal. These are not relevant blockers anyway, so see if I can get the take up the shield shenanigans. Okay, yeah, if they block the take up the shield's going to be better than the tap here. If they don't block whatever, those weren't going to be blocking anyway. Ouch. Make the crab a 3/2 and we trade. Unless they drew another trick. No, we're just gonna bounce off each other. Draw and discard. This crab has been supreme levels of annoying. Alright, we consume the ashes, we tap the Djinn. I'm just doing this right now to give them one less draw step to hit the counterspell to stop it. Another green source for sure. Okay. Take the fall, draw a card. Lost Jitsi. A moderate problem in theory, but when it gets one counter on it here, and I still trade into the crab. Move to combat, we tap the Djinn. Yeah, they have to double activate crab and allow the trade. Okay. Yeah, if it does 0 damage, it gets 0 counters. That's such a draw. That feels better than playing Cactarantula. I mean, either way, I get to play my creature and have Keykeeper untapped, but this gets them to discard a card and maybe gets us a card draw. Yep. Double take up the shield now. I really enjoy that. And I still want to be blocking Canyon Crab on the ground with Green Blade. Huge, huge, huge work from Keykeeper this game. It's been so important. Alright, they're going to take the trade so they can get a counter on the Jitse. Play a Cactus, tap a Djinn. They'd have to kill Keykeeper and the Cactus to get in here. So I'm sending the Hollow Marauder in. They do destroy the Keykeeper. We'll tap the Djinn this turn. And there's the concession from our opponent. We have lethal on board. And that is a solid recovery from all those early flyers. We had some awkward mana there. That was definitely self-imposed. We certainly could have mulliganed on that one. But we managed to stabilize, grind it out just long enough to hit that Golgari source off of the Outcaster Green Blade. So huge work from that card as well. Finding the source that could get us to cast both our black removal spell and our green Cactarantula. That was huge. We are 2-0 heading into game number 3. And here we are now for game number 3. This is pretty excellent mana. It's awkward that it has 2 black spells in the opener, so I'm probably going to Mesa for black and hope Bandit is around for Take Up the Shield. Yeah. I have a lot more white sources in the deck than black sources to naturally draw into as well. So we Mesa on black here. I mean, I guess we're not going to take up the shield anytime soon anyway. We want to wait till we have a decently big creature on board to use that. Alright, here we go. Bucolic Ranch starts them off. So most likely to be green-white mounts for a deck that wants this to do the drawing towards mounts for that 3 mana. There's the plains, there's the trained Erranks, that is for sure. Green-white mounts. Unlikely to be able to block the first striking Erranks well, but I suppose a Take Up the Shield does technically do it. Alright, well they didn't have anything to saddle it in the first place, so really easy blocks set up there. If they trade, we just Rutstein value it out here. Do the indestructible there. Now I've got a 4/3 trampler for them to deal with. Feels decent. All my water bottles literally froze in my car before I took it. I'm just drinking out of water bottles with gigantic ice cubes in them, waiting for them to thaw. It's pretty tragic. Alright, we definitely want to find something big. Tether's fine, but I want some beef for the back for more to be really happy here. I mean, I can cast Tether at instant speed, but I can have the back for more up for some weird situation here, I guess. Also. Or no, I can't have the back for more. What am I talking about? I can have the Rutstein up if they do a 0 mana thing. I'm a greedy man with Rutstein. I'm not playing him without picking some up from grave. There's the Heath. Just gonna start activating the ranch over there. Hey, let's go. Cactarantula's perfect for back for more and Rutstein. Alright, trading the Alchemist here, we still trample over pretty well. And now I have something engraved for Rutstein and back for more, but here's Cactarantula. They're gonna activate the ranch, hope for a mount on top. And they do hit one Quill Charger. Slap that into their hand, get a piece of card draw off the ranch. That's pretty good. Buried in the Garden to exile Cactarantula, but I get to draw a card off of them casting that. The fact that it is exile instead of destroy is rough. There's Lasso by the Lodge, is more great removal here. Miriam, Herd Whisperer. Okay. Lasso Miriam. Because she's going to give the rest of their board hexproof during their turn and potentially put counters on them and stuff. Miriam's pretty scary in the archetype. Rutstein, the 3/2. Cast the 3/2. Solid turn. And this mercenary token's nice. If they get a 4 toughness creature down, I can make sure my creatures have enough power to attack into that. Wow. Alright, the Sterling Supplier draws great too. Let's be attack with 3 3-power creatures here. Into their 4th 3 blocker. Steer clear, blow up the bandit. They have 2 1-mana removal spells here. Double 1-mana instant here would be nasty. Okay, they don't, just the steer clear. And then we get a trade somewhere else. Yeah, Alchemist, sure. They're down to 4. We have 7 power down. It's an empty board. Irascible Wolverine. They draw a card into exile, and it's a Hellspur Brute. They cannot afford to cast, and they concede there. That is 2-0, I believe, for our start in this Outlaws of Thunder Junction quick draft. Might be 3-0, actually. Don't remember. It's been a little while. That is 3-0. Okay, let's go. 3-0 heading into game number 4. No matter what happens here, we got a 50-50 run on our return to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. All right, here we are on the play for game 4. Sand is quite slow, but quite powerful in the end game. Hollow Martyr getting reanimated at any point is going to be awesome. And we can reanimate a Hollow Marauder with a back for more. That's not the greatest way to reanimate it, because we're obviously not going to get value off of fighting with it, because it only has 2 toughness, but getting the enter the battlefield trigger twice is still really gross. Playing against another green-white deck. That is the strongest archetype in the format, just green-white mounts. Technically, we're also a green-white deck. We're not really the green-white mount aggro deck, though. We're the kind of splashier green stuff that you also see as one of the strongest archetypes in the set. Dance of the Tumbleweeds just to ramp up. That means the Sheriff's probably not coming out. And just a 1-1 still. Okay, they're a similar deck barrels. They're just green, splashy, long game stuff. That's like a really good draw in a vacuum, but it does make me really sad they didn't play to the board here, because that would have been an awesome play this turn. Bridge the gap between our early plays and our late game plays. Non-land permanent. I can exile their Buried in the Garden. I suppose that's the play next turn if we don't hit a land. Probably even if we do, because it's not like I'm putting a counter on the board here. Cool. They have 6 mana. They're like 1 mana off from casting their own potential Hollow Marauder type stuff. So just hold up, take up the shield in case of nonsense. Wildlife destroy target attacking creature. Hey. Sure. Gain 1 million and spend 2 mana to play a 5/3 instead of 2 mana to play a 3/1. They've got the 7 mana for a potential Hollow Marauder now, which would be kind of bad for me. I would probably just discard my own Hollow Marauder and plan on reanimating it with Back for More when I hit 6 mana. Oh, Fractured Identity, a card so powerful it is played in vintage cubes. Seems pretty good here. Exile my lasso, they get a lasso, and they get the Buried in the Garden. It's pretty nasty. I've still got a lot of cards here, though, for the end game, just to try to fly over all their stuff for lethal in the end. Far from the worst Fractured Identity I've seen, but again, that card is really strong. Is that the Rutstein No Creatures Engrave? Pretty happy with that. Okay, 5th mana now. Here's a 3/4, but the Mercenary token means it's not that good. It's honestly better to just play a 3/1 right now. The 3/1's going to trade into everything that the 3/4 would trade into. Ooh, gross. Outcaster to draw a card off Sheriff 2. Getting all the cards they need. We might die before we hit the mana we need to do stuff here. Which was the flaw of the hand. I mean, I'm at 21, but oh, Shepherd 2 to just immediately bring back the Sheriff, which is now infinitely bigger than it was the first time. What a sequence of draws there in the end for our opponent. Yikes. I mean, I think you've got me. They've only got one flying blocker, so there is that. I do not see how I come back from this, though. That was ridiculous. I can't even cast my removal spell. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hollow Marauder does some digging for us. Make sure they have no cards in hand. Finds Beastbond Outcaster. I mean, that's going to be solid. Trade into something on blocks. And draw us a card if I don't lose Marauder this turn. Probably have to lose Marauder this turn, though. Even at 21, they have like 20 power on board. 16 power, technically, I guess. Go to 10. Go to 10, cast Outcaster, draw Swamp, cast Ashes. Like, if I just trade this off, next turn I like back for more, draw a card, kill that. I guess I probably have to do the more likely line and just back for more here. There is a 1/1 to kill with it. Okay. Please keep hitting lands. I'm so scared over here. I can only play like one blocker a turn. And you have beef. I'm keeping that Outcaster card draw. And the flying blocker, so that I can double spell with the ground creatures this turn, but still have the blocker for Shepherd. Swamp, please. Swamp, please. No. Oh, the splash. The splash removal, so difficult. To get to the double black. I mean, now they probably... Oh, no, they could attack with everybody here, and that's really bad. I go to 1, killing the Sheriff. Yeah. It's in your hand here. If it's a combat trick, you got me. Pretty much no matter how I block. Even if I could technically survive a little, I'd lose all my creatures for nothing into a combat trick. Okay. I have to play 3 creatures to not die? I cannot play 3 creatures. Yeah, I mean, there's no card draw here or anything. The dance puts a... Oh, it can do untapped? Okay, well, we'd still be dead, right? I can get an untapped swamp for consuming ashes, but then I can't even play 1 creature at that point. And a 6 mana to make a creature and get an untapped land, and then yeah, I can't cast any of the other spells. Yeah, no. I mean, part of the flaw of the deck, the mana base for sure, but it really came back to bite us in that one. Still felt close-ish to stabilizing, but not good enough. That is going to be 3-1, our first loss heading into round number 5. All right, here we are for game 5. The mana base might be an issue again. We got a double white spell this time. I've got all 3 colors, but again, I have a single double black card in this deck, and I feel like I've drawn it literally every game while constantly not having the double black. It's the first time we hit our double white spell, though. That is definitely the roughest aspect of the deck. In order to fit more power in here, we are playing some difficult mana costs, but I feel it's worth it without, again, any like big rare bombs to try to rely on here. Playing against Naya, they milled a Buried in the Garden, so that means that they probably didn't have their 3rd land in the opener. They really needed to try to draw into it. I've drawn 0 lands this game. I'm going to have to play Drover Grizzly to threaten to trade into the Scale Storm Summoner on blocks at least. But they're on the play with a bit of a curve out here. A Haster into a 3/3 that can spit out even more creatures if they buff something here, if they have a 4-power creature on board. So if they cast a 4-power creature, or if they cast a combat trick or a buff spell or something, that is horrible, and sure enough, they do. So I can trade in the summoner so it doesn't make any more 3/1s, but they still have 3 creatures on board here turn 4, even when I traded into one of them, which is pretty brutal. If we miss a land drop, it's basically over, but we did hit the land to at least lasso one of these creatures away, which is particularly good here because of the 1 toughness attacker they have. The 1/1 mercenary is going to be pretty important on blocks, maybe even good enough to draw a removal spell from opponent. Yeah, we haven't run into a bomb rare yet. It would not be Outlaws of Thunder Junction without something like Roxanne hitting the table. So they're not going to cast anything pre-combat, so if I Interrupter, it's going to be Interrupter, Snakeskin Veil to trade into Roxanne and cast and counter nothing with it. But my only other line is to just play a Sterling Supplier, which is so bad here. Yeah, Roxanne's one of the cards that gives Outlaws of Thunder Junction the reputation it has as a Mega Bomb format. 5 mana, 4/3, blow up a creature. Even if your opponent removal spells her immediately, you just 2 for 1 of them. And if they don't, she gets to give you another removal spell every single turn and more mana for more spells. No, at least they cast something pre-combat. So they can't cast Jolie until next turn now because she's plotted. They'll also plot an Alchemist. Okay, yeah, that's nasty. Try to Meteorite Interrupter, I Snakeskin Veil, and I eat Roxanne. But I'm at like 3 life, so... Life linking block, I guess. Probably my best bet. So Jolene doesn't do anything immediately. She only triggers when a power 4 or greater creature is attacking. And they won't be doing that. Technically the 3-1 is easier to kill with other stuff in my deck, but I'm going to stop more damage here. Man, they have a spell too. An instant in hand. I can't not do this. Gotta gain the life if it's possible. I mean, if they had the removal, they could have just done it pre-attacks trying to get lethal. So I don't think it would be that. It could be a combat trick to save that, but I think if it was that, they also could have used that trying to lethal with Coyote. But they could play around like instant speed removal by waiting until I tap out. So it could be like a combat trick here. I doubt it's removal, though. It's holy cow, okay. We're at 5. There's a back for more, and I'm a mana off from that. That's not even a mana base issue. That's just not having 6 lands in a 17 land deck. That's so rude. It's not even a 3-color double pip kind of issue here. Yeah, alright. Get got by the mana base twice in a row here. Pretty brutal turnaround, but they have well over lethal on board. And top deck Betrayal at the vault? Sure. You certainly got it. 3 and 2, heading into game number 6. And here we are for game 6 on the draw again. This would be a really, really good aggressive hand on the play. But we're on the draw, so we'll be probably on the defensive here. You know what? Drawing the Grizzly means maybe I should have just went Forest and plotted Outcaster. I think I should have. I just clicked too fast. I didn't really care about what I was going to draw. I'm like, yeah, we'll just slam down Airings. We'll get things going. But drawing exactly Grizzly means plot Outcaster, turn 3 Grizzly plus Outcaster would be really good. Vengeful Townsfolk. Okay. 3/3 body there. We have no removal in hand, so... Slam in, cast Grizzly here. Don't care too much about the Scry one. I would rather give my opponent the opportunity to trade their townsfolk down into the Airings. Shoot the Sheriff on the Grizzly. Tragic. That's actually really rough for this hand, because now we don't have the 4-power creature. Greenblade fixes that. Won't get to have an untapped Snakeskin Veil here, because I need to pick up a desert. I guess I could go Forest, and then I have Snakeskin Veil. But then Greenblade's just a 3/4 after Snakeskin Veil. Yeah, I have to get a desert. And then I have to Snakeskin Veil one of these two also. I'm going to pass through here. We're not going to do great at trading blows at this point when they've got a lifelinker now. So if they just throw removal at Green Blade, I want to have the 3-1 up to trade into the Prairie Dog or the Townsfolk here. The Prairie Dog or the Prairie Dog. I don't know what my mind was wanting to say instead of Townsfolk. Maybe I was short-circuiting and saying Treasure Dredger or something. Okay, they're just going to pass, get the Prairie Dog counter. Well, they definitely have, like, instant speed removal here or something, so we need to hold a green up for Snakeskin Veil. So we cast Hard Bristle Bandit and hold that up. Like, I could cast Outcaster and hold it up, but I'm not drawing a card off of Outcaster this turn, so that's not even good. I think if they didn't have, like, a removal spell to hold up here, they could have just tapped out and gotten the extra counter on Prairie Dog with its ability. So this is, like, hold up the removal if they don't need to cast it, get the treasure token. Okay. Man, Prairie Dog is nasty. Supplier gives me the 4-power creature now. And now a flyer to start jamming in with. If you want a double removal, that's pretty fine. That's so much less fine. Now I can only cast Snakeskin Veil at sorcery speed. It's gotta be like the best Aven Interrupter target in the format. I guess it can hit the counter spells too, and that's also really gross. Into Lawbringer now. GG's, I guess. 3-0 into 0-3 is just the life today. That is rough. But everything just lined up miserably these last 3 games. We've had the roughest mana of the day these last few games, and then just stuff like Aven Interrupter lining into the Snakeskin Veil. Like, you can't make it up. That's just horrific. Back for more of the Interrupter, block the Lawbringer and go to 1 here. And hope to go from there. I've already played land for turn. Oh, that sucks. Well, Green Blade already blocks Lawbringer well, at least. This maybe casts as a sorcery without paying its mana cost. That's literally it. I can't do it at instant speed. I mean, let's see. If I go full control and then I click next. Yeah, I can't cast it right now. Cool. So I have to cast it in the main phase. What is the top deck? Please be nothing. Okay, we're going to 1. Surveil 1, draw 1. We surveil into lassoed by the law. Oh, sweet Lord, please. I would like to still be in this draft. No 3-0 into 0-3 one time. It's a 4-turn clock. They need 2 removal spells to kill me. If they had a removal spell, they would have killed me last turn. So unless they somehow top deck 2 removal spells in 1 draw step, this is a safe attack. Lasso the 3/3 instead of the green blade. I guess try to go wide here. This forces me to draw creature removal, or this to be creature removal. Yeah, makes sense. It's actually a pretty good play. Mystical Tether does solve that, though. We can tether at instant speed, draw a card off the lasso. No one expects the instant speed tether, and it's going to be disgusting here. Oh, this one's artifact or creature only, unlike the lasso that hits anything. Dang. Still better to instant speed it so I can eat the mercenary. Yikes, they hit another creature, so we're going to have to hit gas again. Or I'll have to chump the security next turn, I think. Wait, no, this is big enough to bounce off security or eat it. I guess this is big enough I can tether the tokens, so even if they have the way to blow up the tether, they don't get anything back. Okay, that's not great, but we're not dead, unless they hit more removal. They don't miss. We don't miss either. If they commit 1 crime, we're dead to menace, though. We play the land to have a slightly bigger idiot here. I don't have any more surveil lands, sadly, but I can get another desert, so both our creatures are bigger now. Double black, triple white. We already have triple black, actually. So triple green, triple white. Let's go for another white, I guess. I don't know. White or green. Three and 0 and a 3/3 it is. They just really kept hitting off the top there. I mean, we even had a turn we got to 2-for-1 them off the tether because it was instant speed removal. And they jammed in, giving us the double kill there, but they didn't miss. So even 2-for-1ing them off one of our draws, we couldn't stop all the creatures they kept hitting off the top, all the removal they kept hitting. Is what it is. Brutal stuff. 3-0 to 3-3 is always the worst feeling ever, but it is a pretty reasonable record for the return trip to Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and a reasonable record for a deck with basically no bomb power. Technically, we have 1 Aven Interrupter, but this deck is really relying on the quality of commons and uncommons in it. Doesn't have any big auto-win Roxanne or Bonnie Paul kind of rares that are all over this format. So I think this was a decent deck here. The mana base is the biggest issue, and that came back to bite us a whole lot. I think the mana base played out even worse than it actually is, because again, I mean, double Mesa, Gulch, Swamp for the black, 6 Forest, Gulch, double Mesa, Pylons for green. I even have the Bandit as well. Yeah, I think we had at least 3 games, as far as I remember, where we didn't have double green or double black, and we hit the only double green card and the only double black card in our deck. I guess, okay, it was 2 games where that happened. 3 games where it felt like that happened. So 3 games where we got like close to that. But we had a single card in our whole deck that needs 2 green mana, and a single card in our whole deck that needs 2 black mana, and 2 games we had a single black, a single green, and both of these cards in hand. So that is just statistically really bad mana draws, even if the mana base is a bit sketchy and is one of the biggest issues in the deck. That was still just some bad variance, some bad luck there, that on average you're not going to hit those cards that often when there's only one of each in the deck. Yeah, I think this deck is better than it played out. Probably more like a 4-3, 5-3 on average, just a solid, decent run like I usually like to get. But we got the lower end of the luck spectrum here, especially as it came to the mana there. First two losses, very mana related. Last one, just a bad top deck war in the end. It is what it is. You cannot win them all, and 3-3 is technically still not like losing them, but it's certainly not winning them all. Just a fine little average record here for the return to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send some more on the recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.